everyone, or shall I say, Merry Christmas Eve. It's December 24th, 2025. Wow, it's already here. Christmas is here. We're going to be talking about what is Christmas today. But before we do that, let me jump back to last episode because I want to give a shout out to one of my listeners. Shout out to Angie over there in St. Louis. She said, she called and, she wrote to me. She said, I had a question about your real thoughts on should students wear uniforms, right? We were talking about that. And what did I do? I went through 10 pros and 5 cons. And she says to me, what I find interesting is there's all these reasons why students should wear uniforms, but you're saying, nah, don't do it. It's a waste of money. What do you mean by that? What do you really mean? What would you do if you were a principal? I said, that's a really good question because what would I do? What would I like to see? I would like to see students wear uniforms. But the problem is what I gave you the example of the 50 the bags that this clear bags that this teacher bought, the principal bought, nobody used them. Is that we don't have the accountability in these schools these days, right? So I said, rather than waste public dollars because those uniforms dollars are going to come out of your pocket, my pocket, said, don't do it. It's not going to work. But guess what? It should work. I mean, hey, where I come from, I grew up in a Sicilian household. My father was the boss. That's how it was. You got discipline, you got respect. It was all about accountability, and there were consequences to everything. And I want to give a shout out to the movie I wanted to see. I told you I'd go see The Housemaid. I did. Not going to give a review. Tune in Friday. I'll give you the review. But it talks about consequences. And in the schools where I've taught, these inner city schools, there are no consequences. The students don't have consequences. Yeah, what I would love to see is a program where everyone wears a uniform. And when you show up at school and you don't have a uniform on, you can't come in. It's like you can't come to work. Send them home. But what's going to happen is the parents are going to complain. They're going to whine about, oh, my student's not getting the proper teaching in school. And then the principal is going to cave, right? What did I say? The ABC is a failure, right? This is if it ain't broke, fix it. Channel 4, chapter 14, you saw this. There was the ABCs of failure. Number one, the poor mentorship of parents and guardians. Well, let me tell you, I had great mentorship. My father taught me well. You got to be the A student, but you got to follow the rules and regulations if they do exist. So, what I really want to see is schools wearing uniforms for all the right reasons, promotes equality, reduces peer pressure, fosters school spirit, improves focus, enhances safety, instills discipline. The problem is I don't see it working, and why should we have to pay for something that's going to fail? But if you do have the balls as a principal to stick by your word, which unfortunately I didn't see a lot of, well, then kudos, then it will work. But again, you got to have the wherewithal and, like I say, the balls to do it. So, hey, who knows? Hopefully, in the future, we could have this review with other people, see what your thoughts are. All right, all right. Let's just jump right into this now because I want to talk about what is Christmas. Oh, before I say that, guys, did you go out? You go out and buy your Powerball ticket? I did. I don't know, $1 billion. How much is it? I have no idea. But I said, let me do that. Not much of a gambling man, other than when I play the cryptocurrencies. You guys know I'm a fan. But let's jump into this. What is Christmas? And well, let me say this because I wanted to make this comment. Confucius, we talked about him in episode 191. That was back in November 30th, right? That was one of my first episodes with the new version of Tola Talks. Confucius, the philosopher, humanitarian, right? He was around 500 BCE. There's a good quote. He said, "Better a diamond with a flaw than a pebble without." Right? What does that mean? A diamond with a flaw. Think about it, right? He says a diamond represents a person of substance, someone with talent, depth, principles, or vision, even if they carry visible flaws. So it's okay to have flaws. It's like the principle. It's okay not to be perfect, but you have to have your principles in order to enforce a uniform society, a uniform school. You got to stick by your principles, right? as opposed to the pebble. The pebble symbolizes surface level perfection, right? But it says those who appear faultless but lack depth, courage, or meaningful contribution. Confucius suggests that flaws do not negate worth. In fact, they often coexist with greatness. So remember that. Every one of us is flawed to a certain degree, right? But it doesn't negate your worth. It coexists with greatness. Remember that statement? Many things are true at the same time. So, getting back to the principle of principles, well, I wish I saw more of it because unfortunately I didn't. They pushed these students through, and ergo, a society that's not very educated. But we're talking about Christmas. 88% of Americans celebrate Christmas. They're going to celebrate tonight, tomorrow. Hey, how about this? Holiday sales are going to top $1 trillion for the first time. All right. That's double over the last 12 years. Parents are spending on average $522 a child. That's up 13% from last year. I mean, hey, we're spending, what is it, travel? There's going to be 122 million people going to hit the road. That's up about 2 or 3% from last year. And what about Santa Claus? Everybody knows Santa Claus. He's got to visit 238 million homes worldwide in 24 hours, right? What's that? We're talking 10 million homes an hour. It's about 2,500 homes a second. Talk about science. Well, hopefully, kids aren't listening to this show, but if they are, close your ears because it's not possible. Everybody knows that. But anyway, look this up, and Wikipedia will give you this. It says Christmas is an annual festival commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ. We all know that. It's observed on December 25th as a religious and cultural celebration among billions with a B of people around the world, right? It's a liturgical feast central to Christianity, right? That's a 12-day feast. We know that. We know it is central to Christianity. The traditional narrative, this is in the New Testament. I've never read the New Testament personally, but if you have, right, it's known as the Nativity of Jesus, right? It says that he was born in Bethlehem. It says it's in accordance with the messianic prophecies, and we know that that slightly differs from the Jewish scripture. But anyway, Joseph and Mary arrive in the city. We know the Virgin Mary. The inn didn't have any room available, so they offered them a stable, which the Christ child was born. Jesus was born. And then angels proclaimed him to be a savior for all people and spread the news to the shepherds who spread the news to the world. It's a basic story, right? Medieval times. Now we know when the medieval times occurred. Medieval times lasted about 1,000 years, guys, from like 476 AD, I think was the onset. It was the decline and the fall of the Western Roman Empire. So it was the Roman Empire, then it was the medieval times, right? And then came the Renaissance after that. Anyway, during the medieval times, says that the earliest church records say that Christians were remembering and celebrating the birth of the Lord, right? And it sort of increased with the prominence of Christmas Day, increased gradually. And after Charlemagne was crowned emperor on Christmas Day in the year 800. So then it started progressing, and Christmas has had its ups and downs, right? A little bit. So 17th century England, the Puritans strongly condemned the celebration of Christmas. They considered it a Catholic invention with the trappings of popery, right, relating to Roman Catholicism. So the Puritans in colonial America, right, when they came over here, they also staunchly approved the observation of Christmas. And they actually spent their very first December 25th in the New World working as usual. All right. Then it says, it also fell out of favor in the U.S. after the American Revolution. So I guess it really didn't kind of catch on, right? Because again, it was considered an English custom. But then here's the good news. In the early 19th century, poets and authors, let me tell you, everybody knows Clement Clark Moore. Maybe you don't, but in 1822, he wrote the poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, right? 'Twas the night before Christmas. That's the first line. That was in 1822. And then along came Charles Dickens. I mentioned him in the previous show with A Christmas Carol, December 19th, 1843. That helped revive the spirit of Christmas. So all this was going on, right? And the first Christmas card actually occurred. This gentleman by the name of Sir Henry Cole had one made in 1843. So it's starting to pop around that time, right? Then you got the 20th and 21st centuries. Christmas got its groove back. In World War One, this is the year 1914, there was a series of informal truces that took place for Christmas between the opposing armies. How about that? World War One. So it was described as a symbol of common humanity, even in the darkest of situations, and used to demonstrate to children the ideals of Christmas. So this came around World War One. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So what do we get to? By the time we got to 1991, this is in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's the tallest Christmas tree of all time. Not a cut Christmas tree, but this Gubbio Christmas tree was 2,130 feet tall. It was decorated with 700 lights, and that became the tallest Christmas tree in the world. But the actual tallest cut Christmas tree, and you guys know I lived in Seattle, been to the Northgate Shopping Center many times. This was in December of 1950. There was a Douglas fir from Mount Rainier, gorgeous area up there, 212 feet tall. That was considered the tallest, I think it still is, the tallest cut Christmas tree of all times. It's about 20 miles from downtown Seattle, guys. So pretty cool stuff to know. And we have a pretty cool looking Christmas tree here. So I took a picture of it at the Monument Circle here in Indianapolis. Really digging that. So what about this? What about the Christmas lights, right? The practice of lighting trees. When did that come around? Well, hey, the Rockefeller tree, Rockefeller Center it started to build it in 1931. The construction workers actually put up their first tree. It wasn't completed till 39, but the good news is, those guys got with it. And a little bit before that, right, in 1923, President Calvin Coolidge illuminated the first Christmas tree on the White House grounds. Pretty cool, pretty cool. And the practice of lighting trees with electricity didn't begin until the late 1800s, 1882 to be exact. And before that, what happened, because we know electricity, before that, families used wax candles on branches. Pretty dangerous, but that originated 16th century Germany. So how about that? But the practice didn't really catch on until 1917, they said. So it kind of caught on 1917. Then you got the president, 5 years later, boom. And then you got Rockefeller. That's it. That's all for the trees, right? We know that. But it's also traditional, right? What about the traditions of Christmas? I know we used to have some family traditions, and I'll give you a story in a second, one of my favorite memories. But what about the foods? I think there's a lot about foods on Christmas time, right? In Sicily, where I come from, it's the 12 kinds of fishes that are sacred, right? In the UK, there's turkey, goose, or other large birds. In Poland and Scandinavia, fish is used for the traditional main course, but richer meats like lamb are increasingly served. How about Germany, France, Austria? Goose, pork are favorite. And in the US, we know it's roast turkey, glazed ham, and prime rib. And of course, pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie is one of my favorites. There's fruitcake and Yule log cake. And of course, eggnog. You know how to make eggnog? I like eggnog without the spirits. They put spirits, brandy, or rum in there. But milk, cream, sugar, whipped eggs with a sprinkle of cinnamon, of course. So, talking about traditions, right? What about you? What is Christmas about for you? Time to spend with family, time to celebrate, time to be thankful, time to reflect, time to heal. I mean, hey, this is the first Christmas I'm having without my mother. Want to give a shout out, rest in peace. I got a little ceramic Christmas tree up here. You guys could see that was my mom. So I'm feeling her these days. This is my first one, like I said, without my mom. But let me tell you one of my favorite memories, childhood memories for Christmas. My brother and I, we lived in this 2-story Cape house in New Jersey. And the second floor, my brother and I each had bedrooms, and we would come down the stairs. There was a staircase overlooking the living room. And this is where my father would be Santa Claus, and when we believed there was a Santa Claus, we would sneak down, and we would always watch him be putting out the gifts. It was pretty cool. They I know my parents knew we were there, but I was around maybe 10, 11 years old. We're talking mid 70s here, guys. And my brother's a year older, and we desired these Schwinn bikes. Schwinn came out with this racer bike, with the curved handlebars. We loved that bike, the 10 speed. It was all the rage. So we wanted were bikes for Christmas, right? And we didn't think we were going to get them. But then I remember my brother and I snuck down just as my father was putting out. There was a green one. I got the green one. It had this metallic to it, and a yellow. My brother got the yellow one. Never forget, man. It was like one of the best Christmas I could ever remember. Coming down with the eyes aglow, watching my father put the bikes out. And that's it. We got these bikes for Christmas. So that was one of my favorite memories of all time. Getting those bikes again. I was 10 or 11 years old, and some pretty cool memories there for the family. So, what are your favorite Christmas memories? I'm sure you have some. Well, anyway, guys, that's it for today. Just want to get into that, have some fun with it. And like I said, wish kids would be wearing uniforms. And as far as everyone else out there, be safe driving wherever you are. Just because it's Christmas Eve doesn't mean you can't get the workout in. I had a decent one today, not tremendous, but I'm looking at this Powerball ticket. Going to give myself some good luck here. You never know, right? All right, guys, have an awesome Christmas. Be safe. Stay warm. It's nice and warm here for Christmas. So if you're traveling to Minnesota, Wisconsin, who knows? Maybe you'll get the white Christmas. And of course, get your workout in, and be well and be safe. All right, guys, have a great Christmas. Peace. See you Friday.